right. Despite the fact that I lost two subscribers, I am jumping on to another train. Um, Human, All Too Human is a book that was written by Friedrich Nietzsche. It was 1878, as I found on Wikipedia. It's a very interesting topic to me, and though I hate starting a new series in the middle of another one, um, I'm going to do it anyway. But today, we're only doing the intro. But I mean, it's still really, really heavy. So here you go. That's the way I'm starting it. Um, yeah, there you go. It was the preface. It is often enough, and always with great surprise, intimated to me that there is something both ordinary and unusual in all my writings. From the birth of tragedy to the recently published Prelude to a Philosophy of the Future, they all contain, I have been told, snares and nets for short sighted birds, and something that is almost a constant, subtle incitement to an overturning of habitual opinions and of approved customs. What? Everything is merely human, all too human. With this exclamation, my writings are gone through, not without a certain dread and mistrust of ethic itself, and not without a disposition to ask the exponent of evil things if those things be not simply misrepresented. My writings have been termed a school of distrust, still more of disdain, also, and more happily, of courage, audacity even. And in fact, I myself do not believe that anybody ever looked into the world with a deep distrust, um, like mine, seeming, as I do, not simply the timely advocate of the devil, but, to employ theological terms, an enemy and a challenger of God. And whosoever has experienced any of the consequences of such deep distrust, anything of the chills and the agonies of isolation to which such an unqualified difference of standpoint condemns him, endowed with it, will also understand how often I must have sought relief in self forgetfulness from any source. Through any object of veneration or enmity, of scientific seriousness or wanton lightness. Also, why I, when I could not find what I was in need of, had to fashion it for myself, counterfeiting it or imagining it. And what poet or writer has ever done anything else? And what other purpose can all the art in the world possibly have? That which I always stood most in need of in order to effect my cure and self recovery was faith. Faith enough not to be thus isolated, not to look at life from so singular a point of view. A magic apprehension in I and mine of relationship and equality, a calm confidence and friendship, a blindness free from suspicion and questioning, two sidedness, a pleasure in external superficialities, the near, the accessible, in all things possessed of color, skin, and seeming, perhaps, I could be fairly reproached with much art in this regard, many fine counterfeitings, for example, that, wisely or wilfully, I had shut my eyes to Scolfiner's blind will towards ethics at a time when I was already clear sighted enough on the subject of ethic. Likewise, that I had deceived myself concerning Richard Wagner's incurable romanticism, as if it were a beginning and not an end. likewise concerning the Greeks, likewise concerning the Germans and their future. And there may be, perhaps, a long list of such likewises. Granted, however, that all this were true, and with justice urged against me, what does it signify? What can it signify in regard to how much of the self sustaining capacity, how much of reason and higher protection are embraced in such self deception, and how much more falsity is still necessary to me, that I may therewith always reassure myself regarding the luxury of my truth? Enough, I still live, and life is not considered, now apart from ethic. It will have deception. It thrives, leaps on deception. But am I not beginning to do all over again what I have always done? I, the old immoralist and bird snarer, talk unmorally, ultra morally, beyond good and evil. 2. Thus then have I involved for myself the free spirits, to whom this discouraging, encouraging work, under the general title Human All Too Human, is dedicated. Such free spirits do not really exist and never did exist. But I stood in need of them, as I have pointed out, in order that some good might be mixed with my evils: illness, loneliness, strangeness, Acadia, incapacity, to serve as gay spirits and comrades with whom one may talk and laugh when one is disposed to talk and laugh, and whom one may send to the devil when they grow wearisome. They are such compensation for the lack of friends that such free spirits can possibly exist, that our Europe will yet number among her sons of tomorrow or of the day after tomorrow. Such a brilliant and enthusiastic company, alive and palpable, and not merely, as in my case, phantasms and imaginary shades. I, myself, can by no means doubt. I see them already coming, slowly, slowly. May it not be that I am doing a little something to expedite their comings when I describe in advance the influences under which I see them evolving and the ways along which they travel? 3. It may be conjectured that a soul in which the type of free spirit can attain maturity and completeness had its decisive and deciding event in the form of a great emancipation or unbinding, and that prior to that event it seemed only the more familiar and forever chained to its place and pillar. What binds strongest? What chords seem almost and lofty nature? Oh, oops. What chords seem almost unbreakable? In the case of morals, of a choice and lofty nature, that will be those of duty, that reverence which in youth is most typical, that timidity and tenderness in the presence of the traditionally honored and the worthy, the gratitude to the soil from which we sprung, from the hand that guided us, for the relic before which we were taught to pray. Their sublimest moments will themselves bind these souls most strongly. The great liberation comes suddenly to such prisoners, like an earthquake. The young soul is all at once shaken, torn apart. cast forth. It comprehends not itself what is taking place. An involuntary onward impulse rules with them the mastery of command. A will, a wish are developed to go forward anywhere. At any price, a strong, dangerous curiosity regarding an undiscovered world flames and flashes in all their being. Better to die than live here. So sounds the tempting voice, and this here, this at home, constitutes all they have hitherto loved. A sudden dread and distrust of all that which they loved, a flash of contempt for that which is called their duty, a mutinous, wilful, volcanic like lodging for a faraway journey. Strange scenes and people, annihilation, petrification, a hatred surmounting love, perhaps a sacrilegious impulse and look backwards to where they so long prayed and loved, perhaps a flush of shame for what they did, and at the same time an exultation at having done it, an inner intoxicating, delightful tremor in which is betrayed the sense of victory. A victory over what? Over whom? A riddle like victory, fruitful in questioning and well worth questioning. But the first victory for all such things of pain and ill belong to the history of the great liberation. And it is at the same time a malady that can destroy a man. This first outbreak of strength and will for self destination, self vulner or value, valuation, this will for free. uh, This will for free will, and how much illness is forced to the surface in the frantic strivings and singularities with which the freed man, the liberated, seeks hitherto to attain his mastery over things. He roves fiercely around with an unsatisfied longing, and whatever objects he may encounter must suffer from the perilous extrepancy of his pride. He tears to pieces whatever attracts him. With a sardonic laugh, he overturns whatever he finds veiled or protected by any reverential awe. He would see what these things look like when they are overturned. It is willfulness and delight in the willfulness of it. If he now, perhaps, gives his approval to that which has hitherto been in ill repute, if, in curiosity and experiment, he penetrates stealthily to the most forbidden things in the background during all his plunging and roaming, for he is as restless and aimless in his course as if lost in a wilderness, is the interrogation. Oh, mark of a curiosity growing ever more dangerous? Can we not upset every standard? And is good perhaps evil? And God only an invention and a subtlety of the devil? Is everything in the last resort false? And if we are dupes, we are not on that very account dupers also. Must we not be dupers also? Such reflections lead and mislead him ever further on, ever further away. Solitude, that dread goddess and matter salve compendinum, encircles and besets him, ever more threatening. more violent, more heartbreaking. But who today knows what solitude is? 4. From this morbid solitude, from the deserts of such trial years, the way is yet far to that great overflowing certainty and healthiness which cannot dispense even without sickness, as a means and a grappling hook of knowledge, to that matured freedom of the spirit, which is, in an equal degree, self mastery and discipline of the heart, and gives access to the path of much and various reflection, to that inner comprehensiveness and self satisfaction of over richness, which precludes all danger that the spirit has gone astray, even in its own path, and is sitting intoxicated in some corner or another. To that overplus of plastic, healing, imitative, and restorative power, which is the very sign of vigorous health. That overplus which confers upon the free spirit the perilous prerogative, oops, the perilous prerogative of spending a life in experiment and of running adventurous risks. The past master privilege of the free spirit. In the interval, there may be long years of convalescence, years filled with many hued, painfully bewitching transformations, dominated and led to the goal by a tenacious will for health that is often emboldened to assume the guise and the disguise of health. There is a middle ground to this, which a man of such destiny cannot subsequently recall without emotion. He basks in a special fine sun of his own, with a feeling of bird like freedom, bird like visual power, bird like uh, irrepressible, sorry, irrepressible, ooh, irrepressibleness, a something extraneous, dretes, in which curiosity and delicate disdain have united. Whew, sorry about that. I do not read that word very often. A free spirit. This refreshing term is grateful in any mood. It also sets one aglow. One lives no longer in the bonds of love and hate, without a yes or no, here or there, indifferently, best pleased to evade, to avoid, to beat about, neither advancing nor retreating. One is habituated to the bad, like a person who all at once sees a fearful hurly burly beneath him. What on earth does that mean? And one was the counterpart of him who bothers himself with things that do not concern him. That sounds familiar. Anyway, as a matter of fact, the free spirit is bothered with mere things, and how many things, which no longer concern him. 5. A step further in recovery, and the free spirit draws near to life again. Slowly indeed, almost refactorily, and almost distrustfully. There is again warmth and mellowness, feeling and fellow feeling acquire depth. Lambent airs stirs all about him. He almost feels, it seems as if now, for the first time, his eyes are open to things near. He is in a maze and sits hushed, For whence he had been, oh, for whence, for where had he been? These near and immediate things, how changed they seem to him. He looks gratefully back, grateful for his wandering, his self exile and severity, his lookings afar, and his bird flights in the cold heights. How fortunate that he has not, like a sensitive, dull homeboy, remained always in the house and at home. He had been beside himself, beyond a doubt. Now, for the first time, he really sees himself, and what surprises in the process. What hitherto unfelt tremor, yet what joy in the exhaustion, the old sickness, the relapses of the convalescent. How it delights him, suffering, to sit still, to exercise patience, to lie in the sun. Who so well as he appreciates the fact that there comes balmy weather, even in winter? Who delights more in the sunshine athwart the wall? They are the most appreciative creatures in the world, and also the most humble. These convalescents and lizards crawling back toward life. There are some among them who can let no day slip past them without addressing some song of praise to its retreating light. And, speaking seriously, it is a fundamental cure for all pessimism, the cankerous vice, as is well known, of all idealists and humbugs, to become ill in the manner of these free spirits, to remain ill quite a while, and then, bit by bit, grow healthy. I mean, healthier. It is wisdom, worldly wisdom, to administer even health to oneself for a long time in small doses. Almost done. 6. About this time, it becomes at last possible, amid the flashlights of a small, unestablished, still precarious health for the free, the ever freer spirit, to begin to read the riddle of that great liberation, a riddle which has hitherto lingered, obscured, well worth questioning, almost impalpable in his memory. If once he hardly dared to ask, why so apart, so alone, renunciating, renouncing all I loved, renouncing respect itself. Why, this coldness, this suspicion, this hate for one's very virtues, how he dares and asks it loudly, already hearing the answer. You had to become master over yourself, master over your own good qualities. I, oh, my apologies. Formerly, they were your masters, but they should be merely your tools along with other tools. You had to acquire power over your I, and not, and know and learn to hold and withhold them in accordance with your higher aims. You had to guess. Oh, wow. You had to grasp the perspective of every representation. Worshatan, Worthschatzung, the dislocation, distortion, and the apparent end of teleology. Teleology? What the fuck is that? Anyway, the apparent end or teleology of the horizon, besides whatever else apparitions to the perspective, oh, appertains to the perspective. Also, the element of deriment. Oh, what an idiot. The element of demerit and its relation to opposing merit, and the whole intellectual cost of every affirmative, every negative. You had to find out the inevitable error in every yes and in every no. Error as inseparable from life, life itself as conditioned by the perspective and its inaccuracy. Above all, you had to see with your own eyes where the error is always greatest. There, namely, where life is littlest, narrowest, meanest, least developed, and yet cannot help looking upon itself as the goal and the standard of things, and smugly and ignobly and incessantly tearing to the tatters all that is highest and greatest and richest, and putting the shreds into the form of questions from the standpoint of its own well-being. You had to see with your own eyes the problem of classification, Rangordnung, Rangordnung, regulation concerning rank and station, and how strength and sweep and reach of perspective wax. Oh, that was right. Perspective wax upward together. You had enough. The free spirit knows henceforward, which you had. It has obeyed, and also what it now can do, and what it now, for the first time, dare. Ungerechtigkeit, wrongfulness, unrighteousness, literally injustice. Okay, I do apologize. There's a lot of German words in here, and I know I destroyed every one of them. I do apologize. I'm almost out of time here. I'm limited to 30-minute records. I'm at 27. There's literally two parts left, though. 7 and 8. Okay, I'm going to pause really quick and pick up in a new one, but I am going to finish this preface before I get into it. All right, back once again. Sorry about the little break. I'm kind of limited to 30-minute recordings right now because I'm using my webcam, but here we go. This is part 7. Accordingly, the free spirit works out for itself an answer to that riddle of its liberation and concludes by generalizing upon its experience in the following fashion. What I went through, everyone must go through, in whom any problem is germinated and strives to the body itself forth. The inner power and inevitability of this problem will assert themselves in due course, as in the case of any unsuspected pregnancy, long before the spirit has seen this problem in its true aspect and learned to call it by its right name. Our destiny exercises its influence over us, even when, as yet, we have not learned its nature. It is our future that lays down the law of our today. Granted that it is the problem of classification, of which we free spirits may say, this is our problem. Yet it is only now, in the midday of our life, that we fully appreciate what preparations, shifts, trials, ordeals, stages, where essential, were essential to that problem before it could emerge to our view, and why we had to go through the various and contradictory longings and satisfactions of body and soul. Circumnavigators and adventurers of that inner world called man, as surveyors of that higher and of that progression that is also called man, crowding in everywhere, almost without fear, disdaining nothing, missing nothing, testing everything, sifting everything, and eliminating the chance impurities, until at last we could say, we free spirits, here, a new problem, here, a long ladder on the rungs of which we ourselves have rested and risen, which we have actually been at times. Here is a something higher, a something deeper, a something below us, a vastly extensive order, ordnung, a comparative classification, ragordnung, that we perceive here, our problem. Ragnorung, the meaning is the problem of grasping the relative importance of things. Übereinander, one over another. D. Jax Uber Island. Sorry, I had to add that. 8. To what stage is the development just outlined the present book belongs, or is assigned, is something that will be hidden from no augur or psychologist for an instant. But where are there oh, but where are there psychologists today? In France? Certainly. In Russia, perhaps? Certainly not in Germany. Grounds are not wanting, to be sure, upon which the Germans of today may adduce this fact to their credit. Happily, for one who in this matter is fashioned and mentored in an un-German school, this German book, which has found its readers in a wide circle of lands and peoples. It has been some 10 years on its rounds, and which must make its way by means of any musical art and tune that will captivate the foreign ear as well as the native. This book has been read most indifferently in Germany itself, and little heeded there. To what is that due? It requires too much, I have been told. It addresses itself to men free from the press of petty obligations. It demands fine and trained perceptions. It requires a surplus of time, of the lightness of heaven and of the heart, of otium in the most unrestricted sense. Mere good things that we Germans of today have not got, and therefore cannot give. After so graceful a retort, my philosophy bids me be silent and ask no more questions. At times, as the proverb says, one remains a philosopher only because one says nothing. Nice. Spring 1886. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been DJack's Chronicles. And I really hope you enjoyed it. I did my best on it. And this was just the preface. There is so much more to come. And Friedrich Nietzsche had so many ideas on this. But that's what I had for today. I hope you enjoyed it. It was an off day, so I got to do a big one. But I'll see you next time. Bye. Please subscribe. And don't run away. I'd miss you. Anyway, love everybody.